documentary filmmakers and festivals should be telling stories that cause people to learn, to want to talk, to be able to voice your opinion.
Do you think that today and in the future, a film festival still holds like a value in for the distribution of a documentary, or do you think that is losing its value in order for a film to actually get distribution?
I think that there are a couple of different points there. Some sales agencies view a festival as the way they acquire, but once they've acquired it or they acquired it pre-festival run, they see themselves as not wanting to affect the potential acquisition by broadcasters or by audiences streaming. They want to try to retain that as much as they can. So showing it in the festival can sometimes for them um, in a very simplistic way for them to think it's going to affect the box office. To be honest, it doesn't. Just ask yourself, when
Uh,
you go to a festival, and let's say you go to a festival that's only in one city, right? You have a
yeah.
theater, and the theater that the film is going to be shown could be multiple screenings, but that some theaters may only have 70 seats, and some theaters might have 300 seats. If you have
Mm,
3 or 4 screenings, and I wouldn't say that you would have that because I think that most festivals do 2 screenings, maybe 3 screenings
yeah.
are encore screening.
Yeah.
Even if you went at the top a level of 300, three is 900 people attending. How is that going to affect? How is that going to affect the overall box office or the ability of someone to be
Yeah.
able to acquire? So I think that is the wrong attitude. I think that what it is so
Uh,
simplistic, saying, trying to put a mathematical calculation, which for me doesn't work anyway, because A and B doesn't equal C. I
mm,
think that film festivals have a role of being able to help to promote and to help to drive reviews. However, having said that,
mm,
some festivals are more important than others, and it's not because of the festival DNA being better. It's just over a period of time. Maybe they were earlier in the piece, they've grown and they've developed a
mm,
marketplace. Maybe they're lucky they got Robert Redford to help to develop their market,
mm,
or they
mm,
have someone else to
mm.
help develop a market. So suddenly you have these markets that are places where everyone's competing to have a world premiere, because a world premiere
Yeah.
gives, for me, it gives a festival a seemingly a stature that is more prominent than other festivals. So when I look at a world premiere, obviously I like to have world premieres because it gives me stature. The more world premieres I
Mm,
have, the more likely I'm going to bring decision makers and sales agents to my festival, which means my festival will grow. My festival will grow.
gotcha.
Now, there's a difference between a festival that wants to be able to do things for the industry as well, and a festival that's a pure screening festival. A pure screening festival don't necessarily attract sales agents. All it is it's very local and it attracts the local audiences, and you don't necessarily do many sales. But maybe a local TV station might say, okay, quite like it, but I would probably, I might be interested in
Mm,
securing it for 1 or 2 screenings. That is probably great. But if you're talking about a filmmaker or a sales agent that wants to make money, they will want to go to a place where potentially there are a lot of decision makers, which is why everyone tends to target the Cannes and the Sundance and the Toronto and,
yeah.
and all this, because they know that a lot of industry go there. But having, for me, to make money, you need to have a combination of both. You need to have a festival that helps to promote the story. And sometimes smaller festivals, you might have a really good journalist in the town or the city that's going to write an
Mm,
amazing review for the film. If you go to Toronto and you have the number of films that they have, how many reviewers are going to be reviewing the films? Hardly any.
yeah.
So it's a combination of trying to figure out, what is the best strategy. It's a mixture of both for me. It's actually being able to go to cities where you can potentially get a prominence. You might win an
Yeah.
award, and that you can put as an award. But you don't want to go. So, for example, if all of a sudden you had a town, with 400 people living in there, and you hold a festival in there, and you go there, the point is, you know, what is the point? The point is that,
Yeah.
maybe it's better off in a streaming situation. But if you're going to a city that has, three, 500,000 people and they can do a nice review and you want a nice prize, at least it's something that you can put on uh, the film's
Yeah.
resume. And, keep shooting for the stars and going for the big festivals, but recognize the big festivals have a problem. Your film is just one of many. So, it's like you need to be
Yeah.
seen at some of these festivals, but you also need to be the big fish in the small pond.
It's true. It's true. Any other advice that comes to your mind that you could give filmmakers in order to secure distribution? I know that I'm asking a big question, but I would say we talked already about, you know, I think this question, as I'm saying it, I know that it sounds a little bit, even to myself, it's like many people ask me that question, and I'm like, well, what are you trying to do?
Yeah.
Right? That's the thing. It's like, it's not all about the distribution. Everybody seems nowadays wants to go on Netflix or on that platform, or they want to get on the big market and they want to be recognized for their work. And in the moments they do that, well, I'm saying, well, maybe if you care more about being recognized than actually accomplishing something, well, just get in the industry and, like get in a production that produced for Netflix. Like you don't even go and produce your own stuff because you care about it, right? So it's a very different
Mm.
approach. But I would say, generally speaking, is there anything else that you would say filmmakers could do or can be mindful about those things when it comes to distribution?
Look, I think that it's really important to be able to figure out what your story is. And I'm not talking about a story in
Mm,
a film. It's a story that's going to make it out into social media and a story that's going to make it out into the press. You need to know that. And you need to know what goal you have. Sometimes films take a long time to break through. But if you've got a subject that is charismatic. You got a subject that is
mm,
photogenic. You got a subject that is going to capture people's attention because the subject's doing something that's quite extraordinary. You need to start building your press around that. You need to be able to
mm,
have that because,
mm,
you know, the film's not enough. And that's why we always say, people tend to forget that when the film finishes, that's when impact producing really kicks in. But impact producing doesn't occur when the film finishes. Impact producing must be something that you start from the very beginning. You need to start thinking to yourself, who are my audiences? And why am I going to be able to
mm,
drive these
mm,
audiences to watch the film? How am I going to get the story told to other people that may not necessarily be my core audience? How am I going to encourage them to go to a film? So you need to start thinking to yourself, what can I give people? Because people want things. No one's going to do a story if they have to. I'm actually probably saying something that's not true. In the old days, a
ah,
journalist would be an investigative journalist, even if it was something that was light. They will investigate, they'll research, and they will do what they can to write the best story that they can. And this will probably shows a little bit about how I feel about where journalism has gone to. I think journalists these days are looking for easy ways for them to tell the story. In other words, they're not really going to be spending weeks trying to do research. They want you to feed them.
mm,
If you feed them, then it becomes easier. And sometimes, even so, with some of the filmmakers say to me, I can't believe the interview I did. They asked me if I can write some copy for their article. I said, yeah, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. Some
yeah,
journalists they don't have the time to write the copy. They think, oh well, you're the filmmaker, you know the subject. Why don't you write some copy for me and then I'll just finish it
yeah,
off? But you need
yeah,
to do that. You need to be able to focus on those things that are going to allow your film to get noticed, your subject.
mm,
If there was an interesting comment by, let's say, for example, if I'm doing something on climate change, and suddenly I discovered that Michelle Obama said something, particularly on this area. I'll focus on that. I will try to wrap the story around it, but it means that you're actually doing a lot of outreach, impact producing, working together with your
Yeah, yeah,
publicist to
yeah,
try to come up with stories. But that's what's going to sell it at the end of the day.
yeah.
Even a sales agent, if they've got a stable of 40 titles, how are they going to remember everything about the particular film to be able to give to someone that's trying to look for the film? So it's what you provide. It's that second lot of work that needs to be done.
One of the reason why I was excited to talk with you is especially to talk about how the market seems to change, and we talked already about that, or how somehow, the social media is impacting the way that you tell stories, and or how do you promote yourself, how do you find distribution. The main thing that was for me is like actually trying to understand the role of a film festival in getting distribution, because I think, Alex, wouldn't you agree that especially in the beginning, you think that you go to the film festival, they accepted you, and the fact that you're going to be in an Oscar qualifying film festival, that's going to secure the distribution. You just need to go there, enjoy those 3, 4, 5 days, meet a bunch of filmmakers, somebody's going to approach you, and the deal is done, and you come back with a lot of money. I had never heard that somebody has done that, unless there was already a career behind that, that was there to somehow, like, enlarge the network to a point that actually they respect you as a filmmaker, and you already have a big machine going on. And so to me, I'm like, I see a lot of that still happening, and I'm trying to, first to say this is not true, but then once many filmmakers realize that they receive it as a bad news, it's not a bad news, it's just different, and you gotta go and approach. And so the fact that you get accepted in an Oscar qualifying film festival, it doesn't secure your distribution yet, though you see that you're playing a total different game. You should be already happy that you're part of that. Like, you're already there. Now it's up to you and how you're gonna play your cards in on the table, and you got 4 days, 5 days, and that's it, really. Maximize that. It's a good opportunity, right? It's not a bad opportunity. I think most people, what they do is like, the first time they go around and they go in a film festival, it doesn't go as they expected, because no sales agents, nobody approached them, and so they come back disappointed. It's like, well, what have you done in order
Mhm.
to accomplish something and leverage that? I think that you gave me pretty much all the answer I was looking for. I wanted to get your perspective on all these
Yeah,
things. This has been really, really helpful and refreshing. I don't know if there's anything that you think maybe we should add to the whole
sure.
picture of the role of film festival in security distribution, but also what's the role of film festival when a filmmaker is trying to go
Yeah,
out and move the steps in the filmmaking world, especially if it's the first, second time.
sure.
I think.
I think there are a couple other things I can add to it. The first is know why you're going to a film festival, and I think the most important thing is that there's no film festival that's a failure. It's an ability to go there to meet people. It's ability to go there to gain insights as to how your film is progressing. So going to a Q&A, asking questions, talking to people after the film gives you understanding as to what is resonating, because you might find that
Mm,
what resonates, say, if you made a film and it's an Italian film and it's designed for the Italian audiences, the reception you're going to get is very different from when the film is going to be shown in Shanghai. So if you're in Shanghai,
mm-hmm.
you're going to get a different point of view, and the audience's reception to that is useful. Just like when you show it in New Zealand, because then you can understand how you need to tweak your marketing or
Yeah,
tweak the way you approach it, so that you
yeah,
can't have the one size fits all for every
yeah,
festival.
yeah, yeah.
The other thing is just to be happy and enjoy the experience. You have worked so hard
Mm,
to get there. If you go in there with all these expectations, you're going to take away the enjoyment of being there. And you need to enjoy it. It doesn't mean that you get lazy and do nothing, because you do some research to find
yeah,
out a bit about the festival, a bit about the people. But it's also being able to celebrate some of the rewards of that hard work that you put into it. Be able to connect with the communities that might come from the same community that your subject is about, so that you actually, it's the thing that the moment for me that's most exciting is when you show it to a community, a diaspora community. So if I did an Italian film and it was about pasta, and you had a particular response in Italy, and I show it to the Italian audiences in New Zealand, and they have a response to it, that to me is gold, because you're reaching
Mm,
into audiences, and when you see their eyes light up because they remember
yeah.
something, and they go away and they're smiling, and it's gold. That's something that cannot be measured, cannot be underestimated as to how much that's going to fill someone. And I think that's really important to remember. The other point that I wanted to make is that be engaged with the festival, with a film festival. So if you know you're going to a film festival, find out, who's coming, find out if there are any industry events. That's really important, because
Mm,
going to industry events will get you an opportunity to meet with people that are experts and people that are local practitioners that might be able to be a potential partner or a source for your next film. If there is a pitch forum, and there's still time for you to put in a pitch, think about whether or not it's worth you putting a pitch. Because even if you stood up there, and even if you know that it's not necessarily going to be something that's going to be successful, but you get to stand up in the pitch, and you pitch, and you get responses, and you watch other people pitch, it's a learning experience.
oh yeah.
And you end up being engaged with the festival, and the festival is going to say, oh my God, that Alex Lee, he was just so engaged. He came and he pitched and he talked to everyone, and we would love to have him back again. Right? It's all about
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
building relationships, goodwill.
Yeah, and I think I don't remember if you mentioned that or if in the conversation like the other conversation we've had, like even to see the film festival as one of the many bricks that helps you to build a big wall. You cannot just see it as the beginning and the end of everything with this movie.
Yeah.
Like even if nothing happened with this movie, right? Eventually you're gonna still be a filmmaker in 30 years. And so now you're putting, the first baby steps or maybe the teenage steps now still into that growth of your journey of becoming an adult and, like finding yourself in the filmmaking world. And so that is also really, really important.
It,
Is it like not just the end of itself, like and just like distribution, it's important, yet you're building
yeah.
something there. You're not just finding the distribution for this movie.
You
Yeah.
know that most festivals these days, most markets, it's very rare for someone to walk away with an immediate acquisition or immediate deal. It is very rare. You go to a pitching market and people
Mm,
pitch. No one wants to. So, for example, you have a room with 12 pitches, people pitching 12 stories. You got a panel decision makers, and they're all sitting there listening. No one's going to show their hand. Let's be honest about it. You could pitch and you might be the one that everyone wants, but no one's going to tell you that they're going to want it. So the moderator is going to say, oh, so, um, say decision maker. So what do you think? Is this going to be a great one for you? We should have a one-on-one. That will be the response. The response is going to
yeah.
be, it's a really interesting proposition, but I need to talk more about this with you, because no one's ever going to
Yeah.
show that. And even when they can, all they're going to do in the one-on-one is say to you that potentially this is a subject that they want to take and be able to show. Because these days, the decision makers that attend, there's so many events out there that they're not, and also because it's all done by collective decision making, it's not one person that makes a decision. They need to take a project back. They need to talk to the audiences about it. Sales
Yeah.
agents are quite different. If they go in there and they like a project, they say, "Yes, I really like the project. I will like to, acquire the project," but they may not give you monetary um,
Mm,
uh, they might not tell you exactly how much. They'll just say that, yeah, we're really interested. We'd like to acquire that. We don't have a film of this nature. Love to have it. But you need to go in there and you need to realize that the conversation doesn't end at the festival of the
yeah.
market. It's the
The film
beginning.
festival.
It's the
Yeah.
beginning of a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Alex, I don't want to take more of your time. I think we talked a lot. Like we talked like you talked a lot about different things and many things, and I'm always grateful for everybody that comes on the podcast and gives their time to give answers or their input. And I'm very, and I'm not just saying, like I'm really thankful for the fact that you took the time to do this. This is gonna be helpful for many people. Like to have an opportunity to get the answer that you gave, especially when approaching the film festival. I mean, personally, I have, I don't know, like 5, 10 people right now that they're working on their stuff, and they all come with the same questions. They all like, like some of them are still in, in producing, and they never approach the film festival part. So that's the reason why I'm doing the podcast, because I hope that this will help even more people, not just the one that are in my circle, in my network. And so to have this kind of input from you, even in such an eloquent way, in my opinion, has been just so refreshing and satisfying. Like you make me wanna. Usually, when an episode ends and I feel like I wanna make another document, it's a good sign.
Mhm.
So that's the way I feel now. I'm like, especially the talking about, making bold decision, and talking about seeing the reaction of the people that watch your movie. All these things personally makes me want to do that again and again, and that's the reason why you keep doing it again. It's like a fisherman. Once we were filming on boats in the south of Italy, and as soon as we went away with the boat from the coast, imagine the Amalfi Coast, all these small
Yes.
towns, and we were there, and they were fishing. And I said to them, this is the first time that I'm close to the coast. We're not necessarily, I don't know how to say navigating. We're not going fast. We're just standing here, and I'm enjoying so much. And it seems like I left all my problems on the land.
Hmm.
Right now, I can see them from far away, but they are not here with me. And I love this. And while he was catching the fishes, he turned over me and he was like, "Why do you think we still do it? This is an 80-year-old guy that doesn't need to go fishing." I was like, "Why do you think we keep doing this? This is why we get addicted
Hmm.
to the sea, to the ocean." I think it's the same with filmmaking. Like this is why you get addicted somehow when you start to see what happens in people's life when you bring certain questions or when you see their reactions to the movie. And so, yeah, thank you for helping me and many others in this.
Oh,
This has been
it's
grateful.
been
It's been great.
it's been my pleasure. I do like the work that I do. I think that quite
Mm,
often you find that there's a lot of industry people that either work in the festival or they work in industry. But sometimes the people in the festival don't have much experience in working in the industry. They've been more experienced in event management. They don't really understand it. And then you have some people that are working industry that don't really understand what goes on in the festival. That's
mm,
why you find a lot of big festivals, they have separate arms, but I think with a smaller
yeah.
event like ours, where we're doing everything, what you do get is an integrated, holistic
Mm, yeah.
overview of everything.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I can tell you're passionate about it, like genuine interested in it. It doesn't sound transactional.
It's not transaction.
And honestly, yeah, it's not a transaction. It's not
Yeah,
like, oh, we're in the business. This is one of the steps you take, and then you get in the business. That's the way I perceive. Honestly, that's what I perceived from you, from the other interviews I watched from you.
yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk with you. I'll talk with my wife. We'll see if we'll make it next year and come over there. Like it'll be
Well,
great.
one of
It'll
the
be
things that
cool.
we can do next year's our 20th anniversary. So every year we
Yeah, I
we
saw.
try to get people to come over, whether, particularly now we would be, it may be something that we can work out. We should start talking about whether or not there's a possibility for something like a podcast to come to the festival and be part of the
You know,
festival.
you know, you know that'd be great because I was actually thinking about that. I like we were talking with my wife this week. I was like, hey, I wonder if we should do at least a couple of film festival next year, like just to see how it goes. Because I think that we haven't launched the podcast. I mean, we were just talking today about the website and many things that needs to be done. But I think in a month and a half, we should go out. And I think that honestly, something in a film festival would be really good because all the filmmakers are there. Now, you give them exposure, out there. um I still don't guarantee an audience, like how big it's gonna be the audience. The only thing I care is that this is gonna be a place where we want to generally help other filmmakers, and we want to help them even in the way that things go out, and yeah, the way there are genuine conversation with them about their movies and audience.
Mm.
I'd be open to that, Alex. I'd be really open and excited to do it. We can definitely talk about it. I think that I will just need to arrange things around with, because I have things planned for shootings and other things. But because I have many collaborators, we can work around, and maybe you can tell me what will be best even to do,
Okay.
like in terms of how do we want to put it together, how this can help the film festival. Like I'm happy, really happy to collaborate with this. It'd be really interesting, I think. Alex, I want to be mindful with your time. I really wanted to thank you because I think you delivered some gold in such a short amount of time that I cannot thank you enough.